FPL, it's all getting a little bit boring, but these differentials can fire you up the ranks. Welcome to the Gianni YouTube show. Hope you guys are well. We're going to preview game week 14. This is when the game weeks start to come thick and fast. We're going to answer the big 5 questions in FPL this week, as well as I mentioned, show you my team, talk captaincy, and look at some of those differentials. I've got some treats for you this week. But let's start off with some of the big questions of the game week, as always. And for me, the biggest one is around goalkeepers. Like, what do we do if we own Areola and we're not getting clean sheet points? Many sold, say, Onana in game week 10 on wildcard, like myself. Since then, 4 game weeks, Onana's had 3 clean sheets. Areola, who we all thought was this amazing buy, I mean, he's really cheap, sure. Is he keeping clean sheets? Absolutely not. Are there other options, and how long do we keep the faith with Areola? Well, the good news for Areola owners, he's got a couple of good fixtures, so we probably give him a couple of weeks. But there's also good news in the fact that there's a gift presented to us at Liverpool, Kelleher, a 3.9, 0.3% owned goalkeeper who should come in and get a whole load of games with the Alisson injury. Now, we don't quite know exactly how many games he's going to get, but if you've got transfers that are burning a hole in your pocket and you've got to burn a transfer somewhere, then selling a Strakosha or a Matt Turner to a Kelleher and keeping, say, an Areola sounds really smart. I mean, the next 3 fixtures for Liverpool, surely there's 2 clean sheets in there. So Kelleher's a really nice option. But as a long-term play, Sanchez and Raya still massively on my wish list. Sanchez, the fixtures from 16 are insane. Raya, Arsenal are practically the best defence in the league. Those 2, one of them needs to get the nod, I think, over Areola long term. I'm probably going to give Areola a couple of weeks still, although I've been saying that perhaps too long. What about Son Heung-min? What do we do with him? Some are selling this week, some are buying, most are holding. Look, don't be too frustrated with Son. Sure, he hasn't been returning, but the chances have been there. 3 offside goals versus Aston Villa. You absolutely keep the faith with Son. For me, he's the 3rd most reliable asset in this game. It's Haaland, it's Salah, it's Son. All of them feel like long-term holds. Son should be going nowhere. Question number 3 this week. Mbeumo, is he a must-have? No. And I think in game week 13, ahead of the Arsenal game, people were talking about him like he was peak Thierry Henry, and it was like, you've got to have Mbeumo in your team. Sure, the fixtures are great for 14. He does blank in 18. But Luton at home's as good as it gets, kind of. I'd rather Sheffield United at home. Mbeumo's not a must-have, but he's fairly close to it. Like, he's the most attractive midfielder in that price point. That's what I'll say. He's probably going to be my transfer in. What about Aston Villa? Do we sell our Aston Villa assets now? Again, those that wildcarded a few weeks back, like myself in 10, we loaded up. The fixtures were there. The fixtures aren't there now. It's Bournemouth away, but then it's City and Arsenal at home. Ollie Watkins for me is a long-term hold. Outside of him, I'm happy selling a Diaby. I'm happy selling a Cash. I think I'm benching Matty Cash this week. Who to captain is question number 5, and then we're going to chat differentials. Who to captain? Wow. The debate will rage on all week. Haaland versus Salah. Guys, let me know in the comments, by the way. Haaland versus Salah this week is huge. Haaland in the Champions League on Tuesday night looked sharp. Like, City were lacklustre in the first half. Second half, as soon as they brought on Alvarez and Doku, things started to happen. They played a lot of, second string would be harsh, a lot of rotation men in the starting 11 alongside Haaland. But then, of course, not long after half-time, he gets his goal. He looked razor sharp. Of course he did. I'm at the moment leaning towards Haaland, but I'll tell you more on my team selection video on Friday. Captaincy, we'll have a big discussion about Salah versus Haaland. I also want to know how Salah gets on in his Thursday night fixture, how many minutes he gets as well. That could turn my head. Guys, shall we have a look at the fixture ticker? I was on the Scout members area earlier, and do check the Scout members area out. And I filtered by the next 4, because after that, in game week 18, we've got the blank game week. So let's take the blank out of the equation. Just the next 4 fixtures pretty much takes us up close to Christmas. Who's at the top of the ticker? And you can do this in the Scout members area. There's a link in the description if you fancy checking it out. Nottingham Forest at top. They've got Everton, Fulham, Wolves and Tottenham. Now, one of my differentials that I'm going to give you 4 names, maybe a Nottingham Forest. Liverpool, second again. One of my differentials is going to be at Liverpool. Burnley, no, I'm not going to advise a Burnley player. Brentford, well, that's the reason we're buying all looking at Mbeumo, isn't it? But as I mentioned, 3 of the guys right at the top there. Forest player, a Liverpool player. I'm going to be looking at also a Man City player, fairly high, and a Newcastle player. Middling fixtures, but they're just scoring goals for fun, aren't they? So let's have a look at those differentials, shall we? And we're going to start with Doku. He's 6.7 million for a Man City front three player that's starting most games. Can't remember the last time. Like 6.7 million for a Man City player starting in the front three most games is obscene value. 8% owned at the moment. I said a couple of weeks ago, when he got a big haul in FPL, I was like, he won't start in the tough fixtures though. He won't start against Chelsea. He won't start against Liverpool. He started against both. Like, he's clearly Pep's boy. Champions League Tuesday night, they put out a lot of rotation guys. Doku gets his rest. They're losing the game 2-0. He has to send Doku on. Doku's first choice in most games. Now, Pep's historically played with a lot of control, and that's why he likes Grealish, and that's why he likes Bernardo out wide at times. But he also wants to go hell for leather at times. And he did that with Sane, he did that with Sterling, and he's now doing that with Doku. And he's got that player with that skill set. And when we look at the bonus points from the weekend just gone, this was the BPS against Liverpool. He got 3 bonus points despite not getting an attacking return, a goal or an assist. Now, this was from Fantasyopedia, this graphic. I love this. You guys know I love the BPS. And there's 32 metrics to the BPS, but this shows how Doku scored his points. Now, the big one, sure, you get 6 in the BPS for playing the 90, your pass completion, your recoveries. And by the way, recoveries is not something he's ever done in France. At Rennes, he didn't ever recover the ball. I heard a French football journalist, Julien Leron, telling me about Doku yesterday, saying, I can't remember ever making a recovery. Big chances created. There was 3 of them. The big one, though, look, dribbles. 12 in the BPS for his dribbles. So good. Like, I can't remember seeing 12 in the BPS for dribbles ever. And that's where he scored a ton of his points. And then all the others, the crosses and so on, just build up. So doing well in the BPS, as soon as he starts getting goals and assists in games, which of course he will, then it'll look absolutely great. Like, he's going to be a really good asset. Over the festive period, you worry about rotation. I'm not that concerned. Like, sure, he'll miss 1 in the next 4. But the amount of goals City are scoring at the moment, and like the Champions League, they've scored 3 goals in every group game. They just score 3 every game. That's what they do. I'd love to go Doku this week. If only there was an injury to one of my midfielders, he'd be straight in. At the moment, I'm prioritising Mbomo, but Doku's firmly on my mind. In a couple of weeks, I think he's got Luton and Palace. If it's not Doku, I'll be looking at that Man City midfield to go short-term punt, I think. But let's have a look at differential number 2. I mentioned Nottingham Forest were top of the ticker. Awaniyi's out injured. Chris Wood comes in as you would expect. He plays Elanga one side, Morgan Gibbs-White the other. That's the front 3. However, Chris Wood isn't the most reliable, isn't a 90-minute man, comes off at 60. What we could see long-term is Hudson-Odoi getting starts, as he absolutely should, and he came on and did really well. Hudson-Odoi one side, Elanga the other, Morgan Gibbs-White, number 9. And we've seen him play there. I think it was for the under-21s at times he played there. For England, he had like Gordon one side and Cole Palmer the other or something. He can play false 9. And even if he's not, wide in a front 3 works. Forest look like they've got a little bit of swagger in attack. We know he's on penalties, although Chris Wood was off the pitch when Morgan Gibbs-White took the penalty. I just like the fact he's 5.7 million. He's 1.3% owned, and we're looking at differentials. Goal and an assist against Brighton. On pens, potentially playing number 9. There's a lot of reasons to like Morgan Gibbs-White with the next 4 fixtures in mind. Differential number 3. Now, his ownership's over 10%, which you argue is that a differential. But knowing so many sold him a few weeks ago, I want to put him back on your radar. He's 12.3% owned. He's 4.7 million. He plays for one of the best defences in the league. And he gets attacking returns. Tsimikas. He got 15 points not long ago. Tsimikas is back being nailed, I think. That game week 12 15-pointer when I benched him was heartbreaking, but that's what he can do. He can offer attacking returns, and he'll offer loads of clean sheets because the next Liverpool 3 fixtures are so good. Tsimikas, for me, is one of the standout defenders to go for. Like, sure, Arsenal defenders give you reliability, but the ceiling often feels like 6, 7, 8 points. Tsimikas, the ceiling, as we've seen, can be a 15-pointer. Differential number 4. You'll all remember owning him last season. Isak. Wilson's injured. Isak starting every game. He's got quality about him. There's no doubt about it. Like, he's been out injured for a while. Comes back into game week 13, scores a goal. Champions League, PSG, Tuesday night, scores a goal. he just scores goals. And Newcastle produce goals for him. They create tons of chances. He got 2 bonus versus Chelsea for only 1 attack in return, so he does well in the BPS. He'll get a lot of 70, 80-minute cameos when they get... Not cameo. He'll get a lot of 70, 80-minute batches of minutes when the game's already won. Because they're like, they've got to wrap him in cotton wool. We know that. Especially with Wilson out injured. But I don't know there's going to be too many games where they're cruising like they were against Chelsea with 80 minutes on the clock. So, should be good for playing the vast majority of most games. Isak is a good pick. Newcastle are fun in attack. They just scored 4 against Chelsea. And for some reason, me included, we don't own one of their attackers. Loads own Gordon, fair play. Outside of that, we don't go there. Isak could be the answer. Isak could be the answer. What's interesting, by the way, when we talk about Newcastle, I always think of Trippier, is Trippier is on 4 yellow cards. Just bear that in mind. Now, the 5th yellow card, you get 5 yellow cards, you pick up a 1-game suspension in the Premier League, right? So 5 Premier League yellows, 1 suspension. Now, that'll be wiped after the 19th league game for that team, which for most teams is game week 19. Game week 18, however, Man City and Brentford blank, so theirs will go on a further week. You don't need to worry about that too much. So, who else is on 4 yellow cards? Trippier, I've mentioned, but there's also a couple of other popular FPL assets. So, Matty Cash, loads have got him, myself included. Keep your eye out there. Kabore, you might need him to start in, say, a game week 18, for example. Beware, he's on 4 yellows. Douglas Luiz is on 4 yellows. So is Raheem Sterling. Yeah, he doesn't often pick up yellows, like historically, so I'm surprised there. One player that does is Rodri. He's on 4 yellows. Bruno's on 4 yellows. Luca Dean and Branthwaite. There's more, but they're the bigger headlines in terms of FPL ownership. Shall we have a quick look at my team? Guys, thank you for hitting the like button, by the way. Likes and subscribes are so welcome, so do hit those buttons if you can. 53 got me a small green arrow, 351k-ish. I had returns that I was happy about when Saka got the late assist, and with that, he gets the bonus points. BPS monster, we like that. So Saka's 8, Gabriel's 6. Thank you, Arsenal lads. Lascelles got me a 7. Haaland was the right captaincy in the end, although was he? Maybe with hindsight, like the outcome was Haaland, but the decision may have been Son. Like, maybe Son, for those that went there, fair play. 3 offside goals, could have hauled. Unlucky not to get a couple of assists, like Kulu hitting the post. Big chances missed. Son was a good, sensible call, and those that went there were unlucky. Haaland is more reliable, though. We know that, and that's what you get with Haaland, and that's why I'll probably end up going there this week. Let's have a look at my team for this week, shall we? At the moment, I've got a bit of a benching headache. I'm starting the back 3, so Ariola's in goal. I've got Gabriel, Tsimikas and Taylor, all with nice home fixtures. But it means I'm benching Matty Cash, I'm benching Lascelles. They could both clean. The midfield, Diaby is going to come out from Bomo. I'm just waiting for the European fixtures because you could get an injury. Let's say Salah gets injured. You're like, oh, damn, I've used my transfer already. So I tend to ignore price rises when there's tons of European football midweek. So Bomo has gone up in price again this week. And I've missed out, and I'm okay with that. Points over pounds, right? So Diaby, Son, Salah, Palmer and Saka's my midfield. Again, loads of nice home fixtures in there for Palmer, Saka, Salah. Watkins I've got, and then Haaland, of course. So it's a good-looking team this game week. I've got 2 free transfers. I've got a bit of money in the bank as well. I think it's around $1 million in the bank. So yeah, it's going to be just Mbomo for me. I'd love to get Doku into this team. I just can't see how. In a way, I wish I'd held on Palmer a couple of weeks and I could have gone Doku. I'm not going to make that switch now because I know I want Palmer long term. So that's where we're at. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe on the way out. I'll be back later this week with team selection video. Take care and I'll see ya.